Hey yo, welcome everyone to episode 13 of Underrated Underdogs. This is your host Dolapo coming at you in virtual studio. We've got the usual guys, Jen and Brandon. Brandon, how you doing today, bro?
Man, I'm good. Have you been watching the Patriots lately?
Yes, I have. Yes, I've been keeping up with you guys.
Perfect. We'll spare you the details. We won't talk about it today, but they're the hottest team in the NFL right now.
Mm. And how's that making you feel? How's you know where are you at? Are you thinking Super Bowl or are you still taking it one step at a time?
No, I haven't gone full overreaction just yet. I'm optimistic for a playoff spot. Like I said, beginning of the year, midway through the year, getting to a playoff spot is a win. Getting a playoff win would be a massive success for the season. So I'm keeping my feet on the ground, sticking to that.
All right, nice. And Jen, how are you doing today, bro?
I'm doing pretty well. And thanks to Brandon, we cashed in on a super solid bet of the Patriots winning by 13 and a half for some of our users. So pretty good win this week. Excited to move forward and talk about what's going to happen this week.
Nice. Before we get there, what about the other bets for the week? How did we do in general?
We did pretty well. We did throw a teaser that Mac Jones essentially cost a lot of money for a lot of our users. We had a plus. We had a 16-1 parlay, same game parlay, that needed Hunter Henry to get a touchdown, and Mac Jones stupidly overthrew the ball in the end zone. That cost us a 61-1 bet.
Damn it, Mac Jones. Just damn it. Well, to get our premium bets as usual, just make sure you follow us on Instagram at underrated FTFW. Once again, that is on Instagram underrated FTFW, and you can get all our premium bets there. But let's get on to some of the topics that we had today. So looking at this past week, the one of the more kind of interesting or funny games to watch was the Browns versus Raiders game. Sorry, not Raiders. Browns versus Ravens game. There were just an insane amount of turnovers that game, but I want to focus on one guy. Let's focus on Lamar Jackson, who threw a career high 4 picks in that game while only throwing one touchdown. The Ravens were able to skate by with the win, but as you can imagine, four interceptions is not a recipe for success typically. So, Jen, I want to come to you here. Did this game raise any red flags for you about Lamar Jackson?
I mean, for sure. I mean, it just, the whole game seemed like Lamar wanted to throw those picks because he had something brewing in his stomach and he wanted to get out of the game as soon as possible. Um, like those interceptions weren't like, like close calls or anything like that. They were, he might as well just started throwing to the Browns secondary at that point. I mean, it's a terrible game for him. I mean, I'm sure he'll bounce back, but it just seems like, you know, they found multiple of his kryptonites and they're using against them. And if Baker was a better QB, the Browns would have won that game easily.
Mm. Brandon, how take me through your kind of a mind as you were watching that game. What did you see from Lamar that was concerning, or is it just kind of something to kind of move past?
I mean, the fact that we keep coming back to it means we probably shouldn't just brush it under the rug. Um, I don't know how Baker Mayfield didn't win that game. 4 interceptions. You've got to score points off of turnovers, and that's how you win the game. The fact that he couldn't win with 4 interceptions, defense gave him optimal chances to win the game, and he just shit the bed. But going back to Lamar, like, yeah, one of the things, like, I don't know about all that, Jin, but one of the things that I've been harping on is the consistency. Like, it's awesome to be great, but you can be good and consistent and get better results because what we see is Lamar will go ahead and beat the Chiefs. He'll go beat Indy, which we might have thought was not a big deal, but is actually a big deal. That's a good team. And then he'll go and lose to Miami. And have to kick a 57-yard field goal, or what was it, a 68-yard field goal to beat the Lions, and throw 4 interceptions against the Browns. Like, he's not able to string together a series of performances, which means especially at the end of the season, you go into the playoffs. Like, are you fully comfortable saying that Lamar Jackson can string together 4 good games? Because that's what it's going to take them to win a Super Bowl. So, I mean, unless you're 100% confident that Lamar can string together 4 good games in the playoffs, then it's a cause for concern. And like, when I think about the AFC the AFC playoff picture, like, as a Patriots fan, I'm like, the Ravens are just not a team I'd be worried about, because Bill Belichick is going to play in a strong defense, and so Lamar might have a bad game. He's a bit of a wild card. He can't string together 4 consistently well-playing games. So I think it's a cause for concern. I don't think you should chuck him or anything. I think it's something you can work on, but he'd be better off being not as good but consistent than just like having some super games and then games where he throws 4 interceptions.
Yeah,
It's the inconsistency that kind of plagued throughout his career. At this point, we know that Lamar can run. There's always been that question of can he throw, and just from last week's game, it just seemed like he can't throw the ball. He's almost pulling like a Patrick Mahomes, where he's saying fuck it, there's a receiver down somewhere, and obviously not in that game, considering he got picked off 4 times. Um, and it just seems like Lamar is trying way too hard this season, because he knows he's in a contract year, and from the inconsistency, I don't know if the Ravens are going to make him a top 5 paying quarterback, considering his mom is his agent at this point. So it just seems like he wanted to get that maximum contract, but I don't think the Ravens are going to reward him with the top 5, maybe not even a top 10 salary for his next extension.
Man, these quarterbacks need to start taking team-friendly deals. Like, it's not like you're taking much out of their pocket to take a team-friendly deal so that you can build pieces around them. Obviously, you need good receivers, and by the looks of it, if you look at the NFL right now, you essentially need a borderline super team to make it into the Super Bowl. And so I don't understand what the big deal. Like, I know they want the most money, but like, at the end of the day, if you're taking a $25 million contract, like, are you really hurting for cash? You're talking about a shit ton of money. So, like, I think they should take team friendly deals. Lamar would definitely be a good candidate for that at this point. Like, I would completely change my opinion if he could string together a series of games where he can mix in the run and the pass and be consistently good with both. But the question is always, can Lamar throw the ball? The answer is always maybe, because sometimes he can and sometimes he does shit like that. And it's hard to mortgage your entire future on that.
yeah, for sure. I mean, even in this game, he still had some kind of flashy moments, but as you said, just the consistency. Can you make good throws and move the ball down the field without, throwing interceptions that could have cost them this game? But fortunately, we were playing a team that was hell bent on losing that game, so they were able to kind of skate by there. Um, so let's move on to Cam Newton and the Panthers. Cam, 2 weeks ago, we're here screaming Cam is back. And obviously, he signed with the Panthers, and everyone knew he was going to be the starting QB from that point in the season, kind of moving forward. Um, and he looked good in the last couple. In the first week, he had a solid game. Last week as well, completed 77% of his passes, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. But that all came in a loss against the Washington football team. This week, though, not so good. He only completed about 24% of his passes, threw 2 picks, and got benched in the fourth quarter. So, Brandon, I want to come to you here. Actually, what do you see? Do you see that the Panthers using Cam differently next week, or kind of moving forward in the season?
I mean, they keep saying he's back to the Panthers, but the coach is gone and the team he had when he was there is gone. It's essentially a different team. Like the coach when he was there was Ron Rivera. Um, so if they wanted to reunite Cam, so to speak, it would have been with the Washington football team. Um, so it is essentially a new team with a new offense. And so there are going to be adjustments. But I dealt with this last year. The Cam Newton experience used to be very exciting. As a fan now, the Cam Newton experience is an emotional roller coaster. Um, when he was playing on the Patriots, he had some unbelievable games. Like last year's game against Seattle was insane. He had a few other ones, like the one against Miami, a couple others I can't think of. The Seattle one just sticks out in my head where he played amazing. And then he also had games where he had 3 interceptions or 58 total yards. He had 32 total yards against the Rams last year. So he is very much a peaks and valleys quarterback at this point in his career. I just think that the Cam that we know and love and want to keep in our memory is the one from his Panthers days before. And it's just not the Cam we're getting now. I hope he can stay consistent. I want Cam Newton to be back in the league for the tail end of his career and not go out like this. It's just the past couple of years he's been inconsistent, and it's the exact same thing. Like you can't go out and have 200 yards, 2 touchdowns, and then flip around and throw 2 interceptions and have a 24% completion rate. That is shit that gets you fired if you're not Cam Newton. Like, for example, if Taylor Heineke went out and did shit like that, he wouldn't have a job. So I don't know. He's got to shape up. I hope they switch around, start using him what he's good for, because we know he can play. Just can't have him throwing 2-3 interceptions a game, having less than 100 yards of offense like he did last year, on top of 400-yard games.
Jen, do you think Cam still has it, or do you think it's just more so the offensive scheme just isn't kind of tailored to him as of yet, or he hasn't learned it yet?
I mean, I think that the old Cam is gone. It's gone forever. I mean, we're already seeing the past, with the Patriots and everything like that. It just seems like he lost his edge. He's becoming inconsistent. I mean, just going back to some of his times at the Panthers in the first stint, there were some questions about inconsistencies before, and he did play okay, but he wasn't surrounded by anything good, and I guess it's you know I think the Panthers are on like a multi-year rebuild at this point. I mean, they spent a lot of their draft capital last year on defense, so I think coming up, they're going to spend, most likely all their picks on offense just to kind of shore up everything. We know that Sam Darnold might not be the answer for them, um, you know, come after the year after the next year. So, it seems like they just need to, you know, they need to start Cam for the rest of the season. Hopefully lose all of their games, get a better draft pick, and just let Cam retire. Retire where everything started, and leave a good taste in everybody's mouth. For with Cam, being the same franchise he started with and retired with, and Cam can focus more on his YouTube career at that point.
Maybe Cam needs to accept a role like a Ryan Fitzpatrick situation, where he's like the bridge between somebody retiring and somebody else coming in, or
That
somebody getting fired and somebody else coming in. Like Ryan Fitzpatrick has essentially made a living off of being the interim quarterback. He
yeah, yeah, I don't think
like he
that's gonna
comes
happen
in
though.
and he's just there for a year or two. He'll get you wins. He'll help your team win games, but at the end of the day, he's not your final solution. Until you get that next guy. In the most recent case, to maybe Cam is that guy for the rest of his career, so he can still make money. He just isn't as in the spotlight.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't think that's gonna happen though, considering the Panthers already have Sam Darnold, which is like the stopgap. We know what his talent's like. He's gonna be a journeyman after this. I mean, Carolina Panthers kind of, shit the bed or shot themselves in the foot, when they picked up his 5th-year contract, because now, coming in the next league year, well, actually, it's fully guaranteed now for next year, including injuries. So Sam Darnold is going to be laughing his way to the bank, making what, close to 1.4, 1.5 million dollars a game for next year. And he's probably gonna buy a nice house in Carolina, because he's either gonna be the backup, or he's gonna maybe, you never know, he might go back to USC with Lincoln Riley and become a quarterbacks coach.
Mm. You see, Brandon, I like your idea of Cam actually, kind of finishing off his career, and lengthening it by being that in between quarterback. I just don't think it'll actually happen for him, just because Cam is a presence. Like he walks in the locker room and Cam is in the locker room. So like I don't think that kind of guy is who you bring in to kind of just fill in the gap for a year or two. I feel like he's one of the, like, you kind of have to commit to him and have the team rally around him for him to play his best. And unfortunately, like I do want to see him continue his career, but I don't know exactly kind of where he goes from here. But I guess that's to be revealed. Um, let's move on though to the Cowboys. Jen, your boys are not looking very hot right now. They started off the season, in a great rhythm, obviously. But now they've lost 3 of their last 4 games. The latest loss came against the Raiders on Thanksgiving. Um, and you guys do have a bit of an easier schedule coming up. You're facing the Washington football team twice, the Giants and the Eagles, the Saints. So obviously there isn't, at least I don't think there's a real scare that this team is going to miss the playoffs. But do you think they can shake this funk off as things get moving towards the playoffs right now?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it just seems like, you know, to win NFL games, obviously you need the star power, and you need, a great set of coaches, which we do have that. But with it's like the same thing with the Tennessee Titans last week. When top two of your receivers are out, you can't do anything about it, because the backup players are not in, they might have practiced that week, but they're not getting, all the plays and everything like that. So I think, with Amari Cooper coming back, and CD coming off of his concussion protocol, I think they're gonna make it to the playoffs. I don't doubt that. And it just seems like, injuries is the biggest part. That might be that collapses team. But those easy, like Kanye said, there's no, like, given any what's that thing called? What is the thing called? Given anything can happen on a given Sunday.
Any given Sunday.
Yeah, on any given Sunday, you can have a great outcome, or you can have a shit outcome. Nobody knows what's going to happen, unless you're Bill Belichick, with all the spying and everything to figure out the team's plays. But, other than that, I think, as long as they can stay healthy, they're going to be all right.
Brandon, he's taking shots at you. Are you gonna let this happen?
I mean, I don't have to. Your coach is Mike McCarthy. Um, I don't have to take shots. Like, sure, Bill has been accused of spying, allegedly.
And
But
got
at least he
caught.
can read a clock. So there's that. Um, I don't know. Like the cow. Okay, so Amari Cooper was out for the Chiefs game, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, and was that the game CD got hurt too?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll give them the benefit of the doubt there. In that vein, your defense gave you enough opportunities that you could have come out with that. Could you have been able to put the ball in the end zone at all? It wasn't like that was a blowout. So all you had to do was essentially get one score for most of the game, and you would have been fine. I don't know. Like the Cowboys to me are, again, just not a threat. They've had a very easy schedule, but you have yet to beat like a legitimate playoff team. If you look at the wins that the Cowboys have had this year, but they lost to the Bucks, to the Chiefs, like I said, I'll give them that. But you do have yet to play the Cardinals. So I think that will be a more important game for the identity of the Cowboys because you have a few divisional games going in. But I mean, if you lose any of those divisional games, then you're probably just not looking good going into the playoffs. But this Cardinals game, you should have everybody back theoretically because it's in a few weeks. It's a legit contender in the NFC. If you can pull off the Cardinals, I will slightly buy into the Cowboys being good. But as it stands, you have not beat a great team in the NFL. You've beat a bunch of lower out of the playoff teams. And at this current moment, even with CD and Amari Cooper back, are you fully confident that you can go through the Packers, the Rams, the Bucks, the Cardinals? Because you're going to have to face a couple of them. And then if you're so confident that you can make it through those, are you sure you can beat the Chiefs or any of the other teams from the AFC that might make it into the Super Bowl? Like I just don't see the Cowboys being able to pull those off.
Hey, there's always a way, right? And also, we are missing some key pieces. Like we're missing our top two defensive ends. Randy Gregory's coming back. DeMarcus Lawrence hasn't touched the field all season this season. So, that's definitely going to add a lot more pressure onto the opposing quarterbacks. And hey, you never know. Trevon Diggs he'll be the biggest beneficiary at this point because if the quarterbacks are throwing it up and he's in the vicinity, he's going to pick that off. So, I think this team's defense is built on turnovers, and I think with the extra pressure and with Dan Quinn's scheme, I think they're definitely going to come back for sure. Um, you know, like I said a couple weeks back, there's always a hope of the Super Bowl, but at this point, like winning the NFC East and winning two playoff games, I'll be set. That's as far as we got to take baby steps at this point. There's still a lot of holes and everything like that on this team, and I think not essentially a full rebuild is in place, but just some key places that needs free agencies or what.
Which part of your team is in rebuild mode?
I'm saying that like they don't need a rebuild, but they need like a mini rebuild on parts of their team.
You mean like to fill in the spots for injuries?
Yeah, exactly. So like better backups,
Okay.
number one, number two, um, get some faster safeties that doesn't get into DUIs, and also they're all. And the other thing too is that a lot of the a lot of the players currently on the roster, like especially on the defensive side, sorry, they have 1 year contracts. Devontae KZ is one. Keanu Neal is also the other one. And then you have all these players that are going to be free agents. From the ways they're playing, an extension might be a little bit more expensive than their 1 year contracts. So I think we're definitely going to lose those players. Plus, let's not forget next year's cap is going to be an issue as well, because next year Dak will account for about 40 million on the cap, unless they do some magic with it. So there's definitely going to be restrictions as well.
Every time I ask you if you feel confident winning certain games, you say anything can happen on any given Sunday, which is not a real answer. But on another note, your bar for the playoffs is set at the same as mine. And the difference is your quarterback earns $75 million this year, and mine was a 15th overall pick going into this year.
Damn. Jen, any comments?
Nope. I mean, Dak deserved the contract. I give him that, but
yeah, this team definitely needs to figure things out because losing games like this late in the season just should not be happening. Brandon already ate the best that the Raiders aren't going to make the playoffs, and Dak is just out here just like but maybe.
Yeah. I mean, if you guys keep playing the same way, you might fuck around and lose the division again.
No comment.
Nope. I mean, if we lose the division, I'm gonna burn every single jersey that I have of the Cowboys for sure.
Why? You got a hot Taylor Heineke right behind you.
Yeah, but again, he poses the Washington poses no threat, which we're gonna get into our um, next section. But yeah, I don't think they're gonna pose a threat. You know, they're gonna shit the bed like the Eagles shit the bed last week.
I mean, while we're here, might as well just kind of get into it then. So you mentioned the Washington football team. Over the past couple of weeks, they've kind of started putting themselves together. They are currently on a 3-game win streak. Pretty hot, pretty hot. Um, and including a 29 to 19 victory against the Bucks 3 weeks ago. That was probably the highlight of the 3-game win streak so far. They are currently sitting in second place in the NFC East, just right behind the Cowboys, and are poised to try to make a playoff push. So, Jen, you already told us that you think this team is not going to make it. Brandon, do you think this team can actually make that playoff push? Do you think they can get there?
They're in a playoff spot right now. The win last night put them in the last wildcard spot. So they've done well. And you're right. The 3-game win streak was Panthers, Seahawks, but the Bucks was obviously a big win. I don't know. At the end of the year or at the end of the season, I have them at 3 more wins, which puts them at what are they at now? Puts them at 8 wins on the season. I mean, it might come down to a few other teams needing to lose, but they could do it. And I know 8 wins doesn't seem like a lot, but aside from the top 5 power teams in the NFC, like no one else is above 500. So those wildcard spots are for anybody. So I mean, they've got a good chance to do it. The one thing they do need to work on is their third down conversion. At the moment, it doesn't matter because they just fucking go for it on fourth down because they don't trust their kicker at all. So they're pretty much a 4-down team at the moment, so they don't have to punt. But they've got a 39% conversion on third down. You're not going to win football games converting 4 in every 10. So they've got to figure out a way to convert on third down so they can keep the drives going, keep the offense on the field, and give themselves more opportunities to score. Because they have been winning, but they haven't been winning by scoring a lot. And it's the same situation as the Cowboys, where like, yeah, you can win games, but are you going to go through multiple playoff caliber teams at the end of the season and then go into the playoffs scoring 17 to 20 points a game and winning? It's probably not going to happen. So they've got to keep the offense on the field longer, score more points. But I've got them winning 8 this year.
Jen, you mentioned you think this team is going to flame out. Why do you think that?
I mean, again, just going back to some of the stats. I mean, going back from the game too, the kicker was saying that his range is between 31 to 35 yards.
I can kick 35 yards.
That's exactly it. So that's why they weren't going on fourth downs. They were going, no field goals and everything like that. And we know that people might laugh at kickers saying that they're not real NFL players and stuff like that. But when it comes to crunch time, they play a big role in their team, when it comes to their extra points, the field goals and everything like that. So I think, the Washington football team at this point, it's, kind of dug themselves into a hole where the whole league now knows that, they're not going to go, they're going to go for it every single one. They have a kicker that sucks, whatever it is, then they're going to take advantage of that. With all the analytics out there and everything like that, I think that's definitely going to be a key point of what's going to happen. And yeah, I just don't think that they're not going to have a good chance of making to the playoffs, even with the other teams kind of rising up afterwards.
Yeah, I didn't know the thing about the 30 to 35 yards. That's insane. Like I can kick 35 yards like right now.
Yeah,
No
in the
warm
Monday
ups.
Nighter, they had at least. They had one of their extra points returned back to the other end zone for 2. And then they had another mishap with the kicking game. And so it was like mid to late fourth quarter, and they were up. And Ron Rivera was like, "We're going. We're going on 4. We're going on all 4." So they pretty much just sat their kicker for the rest of the game. And to your point, Jen, there are definitely a lot of people that shit on kickers. But how many games, like important games, regular season games, games that get you into the playoffs, have been decided by walk-off field goals? Yeah. And pinning your opponent deep in their own territory by punt. Like, kicking is a huge part of the game. Super Bowls are won and lost by last-minute field goals. So it's a huge part of the game. Obviously, you see guys that can hit it from maybe 30 yards out versus guys like Justin Tucker, who you pretty much, as long as it's on the football field, he'll hit the field goal, which is insane. But kickers are important. Theirs sucks. They're stuck going for it on fourth down, which means right now their third down conversion doesn't have to be that good. But it will have to sharpen up because they're not going to go into the playoffs if they're just turning the ball over on downs all the time.
Washington football team, maybe go on YouTube and search up this guy, Destroying. Deestroying, I believe is how it's spelled. He used to
they
be
could
a,
even.
Sorry, what was you saying, Jen?
They might as well just sign Pat McAfee at this point and get him blindfolded to kick field goals.
Yeah, he'll definitely do a better job than 35 yards. 35 yards. Well, yeah. On to the final topic of the evening, though. This time we're going to look at the Philadelphia Eagles. Before this weekend, they actually had about a 50% chance of making the playoffs. And then they went ahead and lost to a division rival in the Giants. And now those odds have dropped down to 23%. And just in pre-production, as we said 23%, Jen blurted out, "That's too high." So, Jen, I want to come to you here first. Are the Eagles dead?
I mean, 100%. I mean, Jalen Hurts is a pretty solid quarterback. But when you have a coach that throws 40 highlighters on his hat every single game, you know he's going to be calling some terrible plays. It's funny, fun fact. If you go back to some of the game films of him, wearing 40 highlighters, he didn't use a single one. So what was those highlighters doing there for? They were definitely a fashion design at that point. It just seems like he does not know exactly how to call plays that would fit a scheme for Jalen Hurts. And, it's funny, too, because I lived in Pennsylvania before, and now people back home are saying, die, Eagles, die, versus fly, Eagles, fly. So that the fan base is definitely not on his side, and I wouldn't be surprised if Nick Sirianni goes out anywhere and gets cheesesteaks thrown at him by the fans.
We've talked about Philly fans in previous episodes, like not just Philly NFL fans, but like Philly sports fans, and they are not a forgiving crew. So if you're brought in there, you need to perform and you need to figure it out fast. And I know Nick Sirianni has to be decent. He's held other defensive coordinator jobs, not head coaching jobs, but he's held other NFL jobs for a decent period of time. So he's not an idiot. But if you listen to him talk, he sounds like he doesn't know a fucking thing. Like, he sounds terrible. I don't know if it's just like he can't communicate himself well to the public, but he does not sound like the master motivator you want in your locker room. I can't speak to how that's received by the players. I'm not one. But you're not going to get any love from us when it comes to Eagles. Like, Jin is a Cowboys fan, so sworn rival pretty much. And I am a Patriots fan who had to live through the 2018 Super Bowl. So you're not going to get any love from here to the Eagles. I thought they were dead before this game. They beat a couple bad teams. They started to look decent. It seemed like their offense started to come together. Once they stopped relying on Jalen Hurts to throw the football every single play and started figuring out that there are other things you can do in an offense, they seem to be putting points on the board. They're putting, close to 30 for a stretch of games there almost every time. So they seem to be looking good, but they were beating some shitty opponents. And so they came up against the Giants. I thought it was a for sure win, but they lost, and now their playoff chances are below 23%, which apparently seems high. I think they're dead. I didn't think they'd end up making the playoffs in the first place. So I definitely think they're dead now.
I mean, just going back to the live betting markets, I think they're at a plus 1,500 to one, plus 1,500 or 15 to 1 to win, which, if you think about it, on a mathematical scale, the odds maker actually puts them at closer to, I think, somewhere in the 8 to 9% range at this point.
Isn't that to win the division though?
To the division, yeah, but to the playoffs is the same thing. It's still at plus 1,500. So, like, if you think about it, like, it'd be a good bet to place on, but you have to be, smoking 40 ounces of crack at this point to make that bet.
So it's not a good bet to place.
No,
Just to be
no.
clear.
On a mathematical scale, yes, it'd be good for mathematically to, if you had some other bets to hedge against, it'd be a good hedge. If you had some other teams, but like I said, like it seems like the Eagles are dead. Like the Eagles fans might start a riot. I'm surprised Nick Sirianni's house hasn't been thrown rocks at during this season, because we know how Philly fans are. So hopefully, he can, after the season, if they have a losing season, hopefully he can still, go out of his house, or otherwise he's gonna have a very bad time in Philly, because those people don't matter who you are. If you suck and you're the coach of that team, they'll spit in everything you got.
I feel like the rest of their season, or I guess there's 3 games in the middle because they play the Jets, and then the last week they play the Cowboys. But there's the middle where they play Washington, Giants, Washington. Those are pick'em games, it feels like. And I would lean towards taking Washington probably both times. And I thought they beat the Jets or the Giants, but apparently not. So they might lose that one too. So they stand a very good possibility of only winning one more game this year.
Damn. Yeah. So both of you think this team is dead. Well,
I'm technically also cheering them on at the same time, because losing records, worse games equals higher draft picks, and they technically are on track for 2 in the top 10 and another one in the top 20. So, I hope they went out the rest of the year, so then you get a really shitty draft pick and draft another wide receiver that's going to be a bust, or all of them are busts, because first rounders in Philly does not go well. They could be great somewhere else, like contributors like Nelson Aguilar, who had butterfingers all 4 years with the Eagles, and he now have less butterfingers. Last season with the Raiders, and this season with the Patriots.
yeah, maybe it was cheesesteaks making his hands slippery.
Hey, those cheesesteaks
Those
ain't
things
a
are
mistake.
greasy, dude. They're good though.
Oh yeah.
You eat like one of those, it's like Popeye's challenge on a sandwich with the amount of cholesterol and fat that you have.
But yes, this brings us to the end of our show. Hopefully, you guys had an amazing time listening to it. If you aren't already subscribed, make sure you hit that subscribe button whenever you listen to podcasts, and subscribe to us on YouTube. And to get our premium bets as well as just some extra content, make sure you follow us on Instagram at underratedftfw. I'll repeat that again. That is underratedftfw. And until next week, just remember that Progressive has Baker Mayfield making commercials. Sharpie, I give you Nick Sirianni. Have a good night.